Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Outta BS podcast. I'm your host, Jordan. Thank you for all the support still. Let's keep it going. We just broke 7,000 in views, so that's pretty cool. And I think like 1.4 thousand hours of view time or something like that. So that's pretty cool. Keep up the good work. As you guys probably heard in the last episode, this is the second episode of season 2. So we have first season done, 50 episodes. I'm pretty excited about that. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still suffering with drug abuse, intrusive thoughts, anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. And with that being said, make sure that you like and share and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It really helps the algorithm. Even if you don't like the video, hit dislike. That helps too. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
My name is Stephanie Shellman, and I was at Crosscreek Manor in Laverton, Utah, and I was there from 2001 and 2002.
Okay, and were you transported, or did your parents bring you up there? What happened? Walk us through that.
Well, it was actually my 15th birthday, and I got woken up about 10 o'clock in the evening, and there's 2 people there ready to take me away in handcuffs if I wasn't going to go willingly. So, and we drove all the way to Utah, 12 hours.
Okay. Did you know that you were going to go there at all beforehand? Did you?
I had no clue. I was actually, I was just so totally sideswiped by it. My mom got me to come home on the guise of my birthday, and then it wasn't until we were almost all the way there that I got a letter. The transporters gave me a letter that my mom had written me explaining what was going on, but I still didn't really understand or get it.
Yeah. Looking back, like, do you know why you got sent there? Like,
Absolutely. I ran away from home when I was a year previous to that, and I'd been living on the streets in Stockton, and just, I was kind of out of control.
Okay. Do you, in your personal opinion, do you believe that you deserve to be sent there?
I feel like there could have been a better way to handle the situation.
Okay. Okay, when you got there, do you remember them buddying you up? Do you remember them going over rules with you? Anything like that? Walk us through like your first day there or whatnot that you remember.
Yeah. You had your group, and you can only talk to the girls in your group, especially like in the lower levels, because there were 6 levels. And I was assigned a Hope Buddy and everything, who's supposed to show me the ropes and tell me what to do and teach me everything. And so every morning we had group with the girls and our therapist, and then we had our family advocate, which was like the person that like contacted our parents for us, sent the mail out and all that stuff. And then we'd go eat, and then we'd have food, and then the whole day, every minute of it was structured. And we'd go to school for a short period of time, and then we'd have another group in the afternoon. So we had about 2 or 3 groups a day with therapy. And then we had on the weekends, even the weekends were structured. Like, we did Disney sing-alongs and stuff for entertainment. Like, that was our videos we could watch and stuff. And during every meal, they had self-help, like Tony Robbins or somebody in the background. Zig Ziglar was a big one. Was always in the background of every meal we ate. So, and then there was the seminars that you had to do to get through through the program and move up in the levels. You have to also go to these seminars, which are like highly intense things with like other kids with just, it's intense. It's really hard to explain the seminars, but basically by the end of them, you're supposed to be a new person, and then you get voted up and you get to go up in the levels, in which each level there's more privileges and whatnot. But in the people who vote you up, it's the other people in your group are the people who decide whether or not you get to go up in the program, like, which just was crazy to me. Like, how come they get to decide? Like, so I wasn't very popular, so I didn't even get to level 2 for 11 months. Like, it took me forever to move up because I just couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And then we have processes, which were like therapeutic assignments, basically.
Yeah. Well, just for a little backstory, I actually went to Spring Creek Lodge in Thompson Falls, Montana for 22 months So I'm not like a stranger or anything to the processes and stuff like that. But I like how you laid out like the overarching structure of the program. That's cool. So they did buddy you up. How long did after you got there did it take for things to like fully sink in and for you to realize this is crazy, like this place is crazy? Or did you realize that? Did you think it was crazy?
I mean, kind of right away. Like, I just couldn't believe like this was really what was going on. Like, this was real. Like, I couldn't believe it. You know, the whole not being able to talk to anybody but these people, and the therapy portion of it, and just it was so extreme and so intense, and like I was just dumbfounded from the start. Like, I couldn't believe it, and it took me a long time before I actually like accepted that this is what's happening, and I better get in line or I'm not going to get the fuck out of here. It took months for that to actually kick in.
What level did you get to?
Well, it took me almost a year to get to level 2. I finally got to level 2, and then I rose to level 4 within a couple months. But then at level 4, I got dropped because I was talking about something that involved drinking, and so I went all the way back down to level 1. And when I got pulled from the program at 16 months, I was only back on level 3. So.
Okay, so you were there 16 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you spend any time in intervention or study hall, solitary confinement, anything like that?
I was on staff buddy for a lot of my stay there. I got to know Ron very well.
Okay. Did going into that, did he ever like do anything inappropriate, or like was there like looking back on it, did you see him like grooming any of the students or like doing anything inappropriate, or any staff member doing anything like?
They like, he was mean. Like, they were just like, there was a lot of verbal abuse that went on and a lot of shaming. Like, that was a big part of the program. Like, to just basically feel awful about yourself is what it seemed like. Like, and everything. And so there's a lot of verbal and mental stuff. Like, at one time I wasn't allowed to talk for 2 months. Like, I couldn't say a word for 2 months. You can't take somebody's voice away from them. But there's other people who had other things happen. Like, there was some definite weird stuff. Like, you could feel things between staff members and some of the students, but for the most part, it was just more verbal, mental, and there was some aggression going on, but that went on behind closed doors. Like, during the seminars, it was kind of a free for all. During the seminars, I saw some more inappropriate shit than I did anywhere else, because it was like the boys and the girls and stuff. So.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of stuff did you see in the seminars that stuck out to you?
Just there was a lot of manhandling going on, like directing people, and just like, more of that shame thrown right at you, so they did a lot of things where they like made people get.
Hey, you got a little like sound in the background. It's
is that better?
Yeah, that's better. So
Okay.
could you start over what you were saying real quick?
Oh, I was just saying that it was like there was like, a lot of manhandling going on during the seminars, and they always like to address the sexually active people and shame them for, whatever acts they had done. People who had been molested were always put on the spot and like made to like relive these horrible events of their lives, like in front of other people. And like, I know that I'm not the only one who that really was just awful. Like, that was rough.
Yeah. Okay. And how many seminars did you make it through?
I made it all the way up to Focus and PC1. I made it to PC1.
Okay. So you graduated Focus?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of What did you think of Focus, and more specifically, what did you think of the lifeboat process? You remember the one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. That one was hard. Like, that was really that was something that like just didn't seem appropriate. Like, it didn't seem right to have people making these choices for, like, I don't know. It was weird. I never really understood how they came up with these processes.
Yeah. Did you yourself, do you remember if you lived or died? Or do you remember if you voted to live or die?
I lived, but that was on my second round. I died the first time.
Okay. Yeah, I voted myself to live, and then how you they have you get up and they're like, okay, well, tell us why you deserve to live. I got like 30 seconds in and I couldn't say anymore. So then I like broke down crying because I like had like no self-worth. And it really just did that out to me that I had like that I really didn't give a fuck about myself. And like,
Right.
but yeah, it was really intense for me.
It was definitely intense. Like the process I think that stuck out to me the most, that really like affected me the most, was the one where we had our stretch, where you had to like like I was a mime, like they give you a persona or whatever that you're supposed to act out and live and whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about that one, but that one really stuck with me the most.
Yeah. For viewers that might not know, excuse me, the processes we're talking about in lifeboat, essentially, you essentially get in it. One circle is in the middle, and then there's a circle on the outside, and you alternate, and you step to the left, and each person, you have to vote if they live or die. And sometimes when you step inside, like when you rotate to the next person, they'll be like, okay, look at this next person, and they'll know your trauma. So they'll be like, look at this next person, like the person that raped you when you were 7, or da 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 da, and they'd throw shit like that out. And then they'd be like, oh, after knowing that, do you want him to live or die? Now think of this next person as your dad. Do you want him to live or die? Think about how much he abused you. Do you want him to live or die? Does he deserve to live or die? So that was the lifeboat process. And it's all like leading up to it is this whole like meditative, quote unquote, meditative fucking like meditation thing that leads into this whole like crazy thing. But yeah, that's like the best I can explain the lifeboat. And then for the stretches, it's essentially getting out of your comfort zone completely. That's what they want you to do. And so they assign you a role, like she was saying, and you have to act that out. I was Ricky Martin. I did live in La Vida Loca, which is all right. But for a lot of people, I know that was like really, really hard for them. Just for the viewer that might not know.
Yeah.
So did you go to PC1?
Yeah, I went to one seminar with my mom, and that was it. Actually, you know what? I don't even think it was PC. I think it might have been Keys. Did our parents go to? I don't know. I went to one seminar with my mom.
Okay, it was probably PC1 because Keys is usually after it usually goes orientation to focus, and then PC1, and then you go to principles, and then keys, and then PC3. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
At least that's how it was for us. So it was probably PC1. Was it the one where they had your parents come and they had your parents line up on one side of the room and you used to line up on the other side of the room, and then you couldn't like touch them at first, but then then you could. I
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Essentially, for the viewers that don't know, PC1 is the first time essentially that you get to see your parents in person since you've been to the program. So that could be anywhere from, for me, it was about a year and a half in. I was there 22 months. I rebelled for my first year there. People that have watched my story know this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But it's essentially the first time you see your parents physically since you get sent to the program, unless you had like some emergency visit, which rarely happened. So that's essentially what PC1 is, and I know it was really hard. For me, the hardest part of PC1 was just seeing my parents and wanting to, like, it was that first part, like where they had us lined up, like at them across the room and us on the other side, and then being like, okay, well, step towards them, but you can't hug them.
Yeah,
and
you can't touch them.
but you can't hug them. And then you get like hella close to them and you still can't hug them. And then you finally are able to hug them. But I know for a lot of people, they weren't really on good terms with their parents. So PC1 was really hard for them because, you know, there are people that were still mad at their parents at PC1.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like spiteful and stuff like that. Okay, just for the person that might not know. What about runners? What did you hear about what they did to runners? Did you see any runners, hear about any runners? Stuff like that.
We had one girl in our group who was a runner. They tried to give me run plans one time, but that was just Ron being a dick to me. Like, he didn't actually end up doing it. But we had one girl who ran. Her name was, I probably can't say her name, but, and she was in our group, and she took off. She busted out one of the windows. I don't know how she got the cage off the window, but she got the cage off the window, and she didn't make it very far. And we didn't see her for probably 3 or 4 days, maybe a week. And then they let her come back, and she didn't really talk to anybody or nothing. She was real quiet. So I never really got to hear more about it from her because, yeah, like I said, she didn't really talk to anybody. But it was kind of a huge surprise, and we all got because it was a group, and your group is whatever happens in your group, it happens to all of you type thing. So we all got in trouble because, oh, well, nobody knew about this, you know? And no, nobody did know about it. We had no idea she was going to do that, but we all kind of got in trouble for it.
So you guys got it withholding?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah.
For the viewer that doesn't know, withholding, essentially, how they do things in these programs is if somebody does something wrong and you either witness it or don't witness it, it doesn't matter. You still get consequence because you should have witnessed it if you didn't notice it and said something. And if you did witness it, you should have said something right away. So they give you what is called a withholding, which is essentially the same consequence that the person that actually did the deed gets. So there's no like just sitting back and being like, oh, I'm innocent and I just keep to myself. No, that doesn't work in places like this. Like they'll find a way to fuck you. They give
a whole new meaning to the word accountability.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like accountability. I mean, I believe in accountability, but like not to that extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just things like I don't need. Like yes, you always need to be accountable, but like there's certain things like you don't need to like. It's hard to.
Yeah, like with this girl, like none of us knew. Like she didn't say a word to anybody. Nobody knew that she was going to run. So to punish all of us for not knowing something because this girl didn't speak to us just seemed absolutely unfair and ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you see that kind of stuff happening a lot there by the staff?
Oh yeah, some groups a little bit more than others because we all have different therapists, and mine was kind of rash, but he was kind of fair. He was reasonable. Like there was definitely some other therapists there who were just, I don't want to say obscene, but they just took it too far. Like they definitely they took their power and the position of these girls a little too far, like too seriously, Maybe not too seriously, that's not the right word, but just like they just,
abuse of power, right?
Yeah, they definitely took advantage of their role.
Now, when you say therapist, are you talking about like the family reps that give the phone calls, or are you talking about like an actual therapist that you go to for like mental health that's like an outside, well, not outside, but like
he's our actual therapist, but he works hand in hand with the family rep, and like we saw him every day. He's the only person, like he was the boss of the group basically. Like he was in charge of all of us.
Okay, so did he manage the families?
We had a family rep who did the family stuff, but he did like the phone calls and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
But we did have therapy with him regularly, each one of us individually, too.
Okay, and what? Just because
when we found out about 9/11, because I was there for that, we didn't find out for 2 days later, but we found out through him. He's the one. Like I was going to the bathroom and I come back and there's our therapist in our classroom talking to all the girls, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Everybody's crying, and he's the one who delivered the message to us. Otherwise, we would have never known about it.
That's crazy because in some of these places they won't let you know anything about what's going on in the outside world. So it's crazy that he told you, and it's interesting to me that he would tell you something like that was like super like that's gonna hit most people. If you have a heart, it's gonna hit you and you'll probably cry from something that dramatic happening. But like, why not tell them other things that are going on in the world? Why only tell them the fucked up?
Well, I think the reason it took them 2 days to discuss how to tell us and what actually to tell us, because I didn't realize the intensity of it until 10 years later when I saw a video finally, and I was like, oh my God. But when he told us, we got the bare minimum, and I think the only reason they did it is because there was people who were there in that program who needed to know because their families were either affected or involved somehow. And so I think it was more of a legal technicality more than it was an importance of our knowing.
And maybe Yeah, and maybe at an even deeper level, maybe they did it purposely because they knew that, especially people that had family where that happened, they knew that those kids would want to work harder and get out
Right.
faster to make sure that their family was okay, or be
Yeah,
able
like
to
motivate. Yeah.
exactly, like a deeper, like, like a, because I feel like, there's a lot of negativity and there's a lot of bad people that were working in these programs. Not to say that
Mhm.
every single person working there was horrible,
No, there
bad
were some
people,
people who
but
did care, but most of those people didn't have the training or the proper certificate, the proper knowledge or experience in those situations to be dealing with us kids. Like those, like most of the staff who worked there were just people off the street. They were not people who should have been left in charge of children who are extremely damaged and threat and almost maybe even dangerous, or just and fragile within a key, and be told that you're in control. Like it just didn't seem like the people who worked there should have been the ones who were dealing with us the way that they were. Like there's male staff watching the girls because they got to go shower, or if you're on staff, but otherwise you had your own shower, you just showered alone, or like it's just craziness. Like we had one staff, Mr. Steve, he was covered, he had like he was scary. He looked like some crazy, like messed out, like white supremacist, but he was a badass. Like he really did give a shit about his girls. And like, but he was just some guy off the street, and anywhere else would have never hired that man to work with us kids. Like, I don't know, it was just weird. It just seemed like none of the people should have been working there. I don't even think half of our therapists actually had like psychology degrees. I think only like a handful of them did.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. And you have to think too.
And
The,
I watched the videos. I watched the videos that they sent our parents. Like, I understand now that my mom was doing what she thought was best to save my life. I get that now. So I've gotten past that. But man, did they reel her right in. Those videos and
oh
everything,
yeah,
they just make it sound like it's just such a great place and they're going to fix me, and they didn't fix me, Mom. Like,
yeah, for sure. And you also have to think in places like this, there's a lot of greedy people that own these companies, and so even more so, I feel like they might be hiring just anybody to quote unquote cut costs as much as possible.
oh, yeah,
Even
absolutely. They
more
definitely
money,
cut corners
you know what I
everywhere they
mean?
could. They didn't
Yeah,
have to pay as much if you didn't have a degree.
yeah, and like if nobody's gonna see what's going on, then we don't have to worry about them being safe with the kids, quote unquote. Like
Right.
let's just cut costs as much as possible, and fuck how it affects the kids. It's messed up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like they had a doctor who actually was there in the building with us, so that we never had to go to the doctor. Like we never had to leave there. Everything was there. We were self-contained.
yeah. You break your leg? Oh no, you're not going to see outside care. You're being taken care of right here. We'll just put you in a splint and call it good.
Yeah,
No pain medication, nothing.
nothing. It was crazy.
Okay. Let's see. Did you hear about anybody was there anybody that you knew in that program that got sent to Tranquility Bay and came back, or like got sent to other places and then came back at all?
There were some people that got sent to the Mexico program. There was a place in Mexico, and my mom had signed the contract to send me there.
Okay.
But 2 days before I got sent there, the Mexican government shut that program down, and the girls all came home. And they didn't even look like the same people anymore. Like they looked like absolute zombies. And actually, one of them I know personally, and she committed suicide a few years ago, which is rest in peace.
Yeah.
And that was something that you could tell when they came back that they weren't ever going to be the same people again. Like something broke in them there.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Did they make you guys do like manual labor, or like did they make you do like rigorous workout routines at any time during the day?
Oh
Because I know
yeah,
at Spring Creek.
yeah. They did a lot. We did some. Like they would make us exercise and stuff until like we just couldn't do it anymore. Sometimes as punishment, punishment, do jumping jacks, or whatever. And then as far as physical labor, not so much there, but I think we did hear a lot about the boys having to do a lot of that stuff. I know on the boys' side things were a little bit different, but I know that there was more of that going on over there.
Okay.
It's
It
because
would
it
make
was
sense.
we had a building that was all the same building, but then the courtyard was cut in two, and the boys, we were not even allowed to look at the boys. We were never out or nothing like that, so it was kind of funny.
Did you get a lot of schooling done there? Because I know for me, I finished like 3 years of school in like 2 years or so.
I did, but didn't mess up because when I came back to California, because the Utah
Transfer.
credits, yeah, so I ended up having to do a whole year extra school once I got home.
Okay. So it actually made you go to school longer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was just for clarification. That was because your credits didn't transfer, or it just wasn't valid, or
They didn't transfer equal, like they didn't count the same. Like they counted for less credits than they would have in Utah.
which you would have thought somebody would have thought of that. You know, Utah fucking
Right.
you need different amount of credits in Utah. In each state, I feel like there's different things about high school.
Yeah.
So it's like, duh, you didn't think
They
about
should all
that?
they should all
Where did
transcribe
you?
the same.
Okay. I did one thing about being in the program that was the hardest for you. What would that be, and how did you deal with it?
I think that it was accepting that my mom would just push me away again, like I was just another problem, instead of actually trying to deal with me, because she never really seemed to want to ever deal with me, and I just always felt like rejected. And so that was kind of the hardest part. And then learning that, but still loving her and everything. So, and I think I just dealt with that. It took me a long time to deal with that, actually. A lot of years. I didn't really deal with it until I got older. Because after I got out of the program, I just kept getting in trouble. So, but in the program, something that the hardest part about the program was getting voted up and stuff, like feeling like I was being judged all the time for the things that I had done and being shamed. And just learning how to accept, to love myself and not let other people's views and opinions of me be what rule me so much. And also so.
Okay. And have you talked? Do you talk to your parents? Like, have you talked to them about this? Have you told them like how it affected you? And do you think that you could ever forgive your parents? Like my thing is like I've forgiven my parents, but I'm never going to forget it.
Right.
So like, where are you with your parents?
Well, it's been a long road with me and my family. But within the last few years, I've really come around and come to grips with everything, and started to realize that they do love me, regardless of how they dealt with anything. They love me. And I'm a parent now too and stuff. So I'm working on forgiving my family, but like you said, like I'll never forget. And I've tried to talk to them. My mom, she's part of a survivors group online for Cross Creek. So she's like, oh, I didn't realize what I was doing to you and this and that. But she never really wants to talk about it. She just says, well, that was then. And, here we are now. And it's like, she just kind of tries to act like it never happened. But for me, I think about it literally every day of my life. So I can't forget that it happened. So I wish that one day we can get to a point where maybe we can talk about it a little bit.
Okay. And let's see. Did they have like a graduation ceremony at Cross Creek? Like like not for high school, but like for graduating the program? Like did they do anything like?
They did, but the upper levels, like once you hit level 5, you got to go to a different building completely, which was almost like a different program, because you got like all kinds of different privileges, and you even got to go outside to the outside world and stuff. Whereas levels 4 and below, you're stuck within the same building forever. So we didn't really get to be a part of the graduation, but I know that they had one.
Okay. And let's see. If you could go back in a time machine and not go to that place, would you do it, and why?
I'd say yes, because despite despite what I went through because of it, and the emotional turmoil and chaos that it has created within me in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't have some of the tools that I have today that other people don't have, that has helped me in my times of chaos. And honestly, if I hadn't gone there and I continued doing what I was doing, I probably would have died. So I I don't know, I wouldn't send my kids someplace like that, absolutely not, but I wouldn't take back the experience for myself, even though it took me a long time to get there, to mentally to believe that.
Okay. And let's see. How are you now? Like, how are you after like, what happened after the program? Like when you got pulled, did you know that you were going to be pulled? Like, did they tell you?
No, I found out an hour before. I went to go work in the kitchen that morning like normal, and I got told that I needed to go to group. And so I went to group, and my therapist started asking me all these questions that wasn't really understanding. And then finally he says, well, you need to have answers to these because you're going home in an hour. And I just started crying. I had no idea. I was blown away. But within 2 weeks of going home, because I ended up having to have a home contract and everything still. And I guess my mom and my therapist had been putting it together for a while without me. And so
like a life contract? So like a life contract? Kind of like a life contract. Was it the life contract? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I ended up having to do that when I got home. And there was one day, like a week later, when I was out of the program, I was singing an Offspring song, and I got in all kinds of trouble for it. And I was just sitting there going, this is ridiculous. I'm not in this place anymore. Why is this happening? And I ended up running away again within a couple of weeks of being home. I ended up going to rehab. I ended up going to juvenile hall, getting pregnant. Like, I ended up going down a dirt road again, but I did pull myself out of it. And I had 9 years, and I did really, really good. I raised my kids, and I did really good. And then about 7 years ago, I kind of fell apart again. And the last 2 to 3 years, I've been actually the last 3 to 4 years, I've been reanalyzing things. I've kind of pulled myself back together, and I see things a lot differently. And I don't think that I would be where I am right now after this fall had I not gone through what I'd gone through before. So that's a good thing.
Okay. And so did you struggle with substance abuse then after the like did you struggle with it before, and then like after, was it amplified, or like did you always struggle with it like before and after?
It was always kind of a struggle for me before and after. Yeah. I think that but before the program, it was kind of no bars, no holds. I just went balls to the walls, whatever. I didn't even care what happened or how it happened. And after the program, I had I had a little bit more of I cared a little bit more about it. So.
Okay. Okay. And let's see. So, and you said you got sobriety, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Well,
but not from any kind of 12-step program or nothing like that. So I'll tell you that, because I just felt so force-fed all of that through my years. But I can't say that I didn't take things away from those programs that do help me in my daily life. So
yeah, for sure. I'm personally all about like harm reduction. Like personally, like I used to use meth and heroin, and I have like 21 months off that.
Good for you.
I'm on methadone, and I smoke weed, but that's all I do. And I'm gonna
I smoke weed.
Yeah.
And I do believe that everything in moderation and responsibility. Like if people had more knowledge and more education, and I think that addiction is handled in a very misinformed manner, and that creates more problems than it helps. And I definitely agree with the harm reduction, and I definitely agree with those kinds of programs. I think that they definitely need to be integrated more. Like San Francisco just started. They just opened a safe use place, and I thought that was a great idea. They use them in Europe. It's been proven to work. It gets people off streets, and it helps them, you know.
Well, because if people are gonna use, they're gonna use regardless. So why not
Exactly.
give them a fucking safe place to fucking do it? Because otherwise, they're just gonna be. Also, it's also it's a sanitation concern too.
Absolutely, it's the
Because
public health.
because
Thank you.
also, you know, like I live in Seattle, and fucking like in downtown, like we don't have really places yet for them to go do it safely. So what we have instead is just a bunch of addicts out on the street openly, like
Right.
dealing drugs and doing drugs
And leaving their needles lying around.
Yeah, and just like in
Yeah.
front of plenty of children, like, you know, like how many kids is this affecting? You know, like
Right.
kids are now going to become, they're either going to become addicted to drugs in the future because they saw a bunch of shit, or they're going to become repelled by it. But it's going to be one of the two. Like, yeah, I don't know. I really, I don't like what it does. I just don't like children being hurt. Like,
I agree.
That's like a big thing for me. Like, I don't like that shit. Like, whether it be
Right,
like,
and the more
like,
you hide things from them, and the more you don't tell them, the more they're going to go try to find out on their own, and they're going to find out that, you know, and if we actually gave them the option, and it's been proven again, it's been proven time and time again, that if you give them that option and you educate them, they make better decisions based off of that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And once we honestly, if we raise our children, if we just start raising our children better as a society, then
Absolutely.
we won't need it places like this. Like, you know,
Exactly.
quote unquote need. Like there won't be a
Yeah.
quote unquote need for it, you know? So
Right. There won't be so many desperate parents out there, you know.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or anything that you would tell or hold on.
Okay.
Knowing what you know now, is it your belief that these places should or could, wait a minute, I always fuck this up, should or even could be regulated, fully regulated now, or is it your belief that they should just all be shut down?
I think that W.W.A.S.P, Worldwide Association of Specialty Schools, should be shut the fuck down. They're not, like I said earlier, they don't hire people. There's no actual training or professionalism involved. It's just people wanting to take money from desperate parents, and that's not okay. They're profiting off of people's pain and hurt and struggle. I do think that there is a way to have a program that could help young people, but I don't think that that's the way to do it. I'm not sure what the right way is to do it, but I definitely know that it needs to involve having peers, people who have been involved, and people who are educated and have the professional part of it as well. I don't think medication should be forced, and I don't think that therapy should be forced. I don't think that that's an effective way to get anywhere. I think that a lot of times the girls who were in the program just did it to get out of there, and instead of actually wanting to help themselves. And a lot of, you know, that's where the brainwashing comes in, because we all ended up thinking these things about it. You know, it's like, it's just crazy. We got repeated things and repeated and repeated and repeated until we believed them. And then we got put back into the world, and we realized that that's not how it is again, you know. And it was like a huge slap in the face. It was like it was like a fucking, it was a reality check, you know. It was just, when I got out, I was like, I looked around, and it was like, only in the short time that I was gone, the world was completely different. Like, I'd been literally locked away from the world. I didn't hear the radio. I didn't see TV. I knew nothing. Like I said, we didn't find out about 9/11 until 2 days later. So I was completely sheltered, and you can't do that. People need to be a part of the world.
Okay, and then I have like one, maybe a couple more questions. How was reintegration into society after you got back? Like, was it like, for me, it's always it's always been hard to like relate to people, I feel like, after I got out, but like things like that, and like always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and like just like how was reintegrating into society? Like, did you feel awkward in conversation with people? Like,
Oh yeah. Like, I would try to, yeah. It was real difficult because my mom had also moved while I was in the program, so I came out to a whole new town, new people, everything. Like, everybody I knew from before was not there, and it was real weird for me to try to talk to people and relate to them, because the things that I had gone through, like, I can't even talk to people and try to explain to them the program that I went to. Like, we'll be talking and I try to say something that's about the program. Because like I said, I think about it literally every day. And I still have to stop and be like, oh, my program in Utah. And then, you know, somebody needs to have it explained to them. And it's like, I finally met somebody in town here who actually also went to Cross Creek. And I was just like, I love that because we can actually talk and I know what they're talking about and they know what I'm talking about. And it's not like, you know, it's like some secret club, you know, and it's like, it definitely, I still sometimes feel like an outcast, and my anxiety is definitely one of my biggest struggles. But when I got out, it was really hard for me to relate to people again. And that's why I went back to using, because I knew that that was how I could get, that's the world that I knew. So I knew how to do that. And I knew how to talk to those people. And I knew that if I had to explain anything, they wouldn't care, you know? So that was a way to deal with that for me.
Yeah. And what were some of the biggest things that like, how were some of the ways that the program affected you in like positive or negative ways, like that you noticed, like after like knowing like where you are now, like looking back, like what do you think, like how do you think it affected you?
Negatively, it gave me a lot of negative feelings and a lot of confusion. And I walked around in a fog for a long time trying to understand and comprehend the things that I experienced and went through there. And I dealt with a lot of anger at them, at my family, at just, it took me a long time to deal with that. Like I said, with my parents, it's just been the last few years, I finally am coming to an area where I'm forgiving them, because I, and not even for their sake, but for my sake, so I can live with my life and not be held back any longer. So negatively, it held me back for a long time, but positively, it gave me tools that I've learned that I use in my life that help me, like being accountable, like how to, you know, not blame other people for the things that I do, and how to look at things that I go through. I write a lot, so that really helped me out there at the program, was getting into writing more. And then also something that I took away from there was oh crap, I just forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's just it definitely, it greatly impacted my life, and it definitely formed who I am as a person, everything about me. There's little tidbits that I hear in the back of my head every day from there, you know, things that I heard, and it also taught me how to deal with people in a situation, you know, when you get put in a room with people that you don't know, and you know, I can adapt really well now because of that. Like if somebody shows up, I'll be the person to talk to them and get them going, because I know what it's like to be that odd man out and sit there and not know what to say, you know, and you're just kind of forced to be in a situation that none of you want to be in, and you just learn how to adapt and you learn to deal with it. So adaptation is definitely something else I took from there.
Okay, cool. All right, well, is there anything that you want to add to your story, or that you think, or that you might say to a parent that might be thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
Talk to your kids. You don't send them to talk to somebody else. You know, you'd be surprised. It's amazing what would happen if you, because a lot of times the reason the kids are acting the way they're acting is because they don't feel accepted by their family, you know, and you know, you might disagree with some of the things that they're doing, but don't shame them. You know, shame doesn't get anybody anywhere. It just brings them down more. And if you actually sat down and talked and were open, you could get a whole lot further. Like I said, I would never send my kids someplace like that. And both my kids, like I'm so grateful for them. And you know, we've had problems, but we talk and we deal with them head on. And I believe that part of the reason I haven't had the problems with them that my parents had with me is because of our openness and our willingness to talk to each other and just deal with our problems instead of trying to hide from them.
Okay, and I do have one more question. How old are you kids?
They are 19 and 15.
Okay, do they know about what happened to you? Have you talked to them about it?
They do. They know. Yeah, they knew.
Okay, all right. I was just curious.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
was pretty open with them about it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And if you ever want to do a part 2, let me know. Like if you have a bunch of thoughts, come back after this, and we just want to do another part 2, or just maybe to check back up on you and see how you're doing in a bit.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right, you have a good night.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Bye.